and without any kind of countdown, because life doesn't get countdowns.
No, no. So many things come so unexpectedly.
That's right. It's like, you
Oh
ready?
man.
Oh, it's already over. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, especially car crashes sometimes.
that's right. Like,
Uh,
I'm going to clap my hands together,
okay.
but I'm very fast.
Okay.
You want to see it again?
What?
That's how fast, right? See, you don't know. You don't know.
Wow. Did you do that with your kids all the time? I bet that was the thing.
I did. I was. Yeah. I'm still Goofy Dad, the Goofy Dad guy. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to be here again, Mr. James.
Yeah. I hope I'm counting right. This is number 6.
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I had to go
Yeah.
back in
And
our YouTube channel and like
hmm
1, 2, 3, because we started having the number in the name, and then you started getting super clever, like frozen bodies, vomiting blood, kiss your
yeah,
mom, or like these.
I know it's
Yeah.
clickbait or something.
Clickbait.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, remember when clickbait first came out? It was so frustrating, right?
Right.
You'd be like, "Oh, that looks super cool," and it's like, "Gotcha!"
Yeah. Right.
Ad all over your screen. You're like, "No."
In the early days of
Oh,
the internet, yeah. So like, watch this cute kitten climb a mountain of chocolate. Like, what? Oh, now I have 3 Visa cards.
yep. Yes, sir. So you had a good day so far?
Yeah, yeah. Feels productive. Feels good. Yeah. Didn't we started the day at like 12 plus degrees, and now it's like almost 0 and snowing.
Yep. It is
Crazy.
snowing where I'm at. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I went out and I'm like, oh, I actually don't even need a coat on today.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
really glad I accidentally wore a coat because then on the way home, I had it zipped right up. It was cold
I was
and
thinking.
windy, very
Yeah,
windy.
big time. And you're near the windy lake. I was thinking today, I'm
Yes.
walking into the bank and I'm thinking like, oh man, we've been on such like, this is February. We should be frozen solid and horrible,
Right.
but it's been like yesterday was 20 degrees, 20 whatever it was. It was
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. And then so
I
I'm walking
heard
the bank.
though,
What?
I heard though that don't start planting your garden stuff yet. This is
Oh,
fall spring.
yeah,
Second
big
winter
time,
is coming,
big time.
right?
Yeah. Well,
You
I'm
always have
walking
to
the
wait
bank.
for March 24.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't do it. But when I'm walking in the bank, I'm thinking like, you're
Mhm.
like, oh, it's cold. And I think, oh, wait a minute, it is February. We should be frozen. So we kind of, it's like we're gonna have to pay the piper eventually. So it's almost like all of a sudden I'm walking by the bank machine, thinking like, imagine all this money was coming out of the bank machine. You're like, this is amazing. And then you get an email saying, we saw
Oh,
you take all the money, so can you bring it all back? And so it's like it's February, dummy. Don't plant your
yeah.
gardens.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we've had a good week. I don't know. I don't know where to start here today. I You have something I wanted to ask you about,
Okay.
if that's okay. Yeah. So I've seen a couple emails and I've heard you talk a little bit about it. You are part of a recovery program now. Is that right?
Well, yeah. Part of there's an established Christian based, biblically based recovery program called Celebrate Recovery that doesn't
Okay.
exist in this area. So I was approached by a couple people that would like to start a chapter here. It's like Christian AA basically,
Okay.
but a bit more wider scope than just alcohol. It's kind of for hangups, habits, hurts, addictions, anything that's sort of robbing the freedom in your life kind of thing. But a 12-step program that's biblically based, which
Okay.
originally AA was in 1939.
Hmm.
But time happens. So I'm part of a group that's trying to put together the framework to create a group that would be a regular weekly group where people could come and try to get themselves put together.
Cool.
Yes.
And how did they reach out? How do they know about to talk to you about that?
Well, it's got some acquaintances, but I just recently, whether I should have done it or shouldn't have done it, I just recently sort of had a 30-year sobriety anniversary. I guess you say I haven't had
Awesome.
a drink or a drug or a cigarette in 30 years. And I thought, what the heck? So I talked into my phone one morning saying, 30 years ago, I used to be on welfare, living downtown London. And not as a shock thing, but
Mhm.
just to say, my life was very different than it is today. and AA was a big part of that. But AA also would, for myself, was a catalyst that just pushed me, propelled me to Scripture, to seek out
Okay.
what is the higher power. Because in AA, it's a higher power, which
Right.
is an entry point for a lot of people like myself. I wasn't raised in a religious home, spiritual home, Christian home, anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
the concept that all you got to know about God is you ain't Him, kind of thing, and there's a power greater than yourself that you need to sort of tap into, type of thing. So a couple of
Mm-hmm.
years of AA, it was getting really super annoying for me because I'm thinking one person's higher power was Buddha, the next person's higher power was a tree, the next person's higher power was their grandpa. I thought, what? It
Right.
can't. What is this? Like, it can't be
Yeah.
that different. So anyway, I want to know what was behind the higher power, and I came directly in contact with the God of the universe through the Bible, through Jesus, and became a Christian. And anyway, so then I kind of disengaged from AA and really have disengaged from any kind of organized recovery program for years and years, but still want to be an advocate for an organized step program to get
Right.
come out of the mud of some kind of addiction and celebrate recovery. I thought, cool. So people reached out and said, "Hey, we're trying to get this group off the ground. Would you be interested in seeing if we could build the framework together to create this group?" So I said, "Yeah, sounds great."
Cool.
Yeah,
Now, is that so? It is an established group already, but they're looking to run it in the Chatham area.
yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
like I think 1990 or something. Some guy at Saddleback Church saw one of Rick Warren's sermons, and it inspired him to sort of get a handle on his drinking or something like that.
Okay.
And there was the beginning of this Celebrate Recovery, which kind of, if you know anything about AA, it's like literally like a Christian AA. There's like 12 steps,
Okay. Oh,
and
really?
they tie each step to a biblical reference, and the
Okay.
core behind the 12 steps are what they call the 8 principles that are tied directly to the Beatitudes. So it's if you're
Wow.
if someone is super super hostile to Christ, hostile to Christianity and church, you know it's probably not a fit at this point in your life, but because
Right.
it's unapologetically Christian. And
But if somebody is, say, uh, unchurched, they're not really about church, but
yeah,
they're not really against church. Um,
then
this
there's
this
hope.
might
There's always hope. But yeah, for sure, someone that's
this
open
might
to
be a
that.
good fit.
Yep, yep, for sure. Like I remember the first time I ever saw the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous in the basement of a detox center in London, and I thought, yeah, I need some help, and I thought these are the experts. And I went there. I remember reading the steps of these. They have these like pull down like a window blind, but it was on
Okay.
the steps. And they pull it down. I'm reading. I'm thinking, I'm seeing God, 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 and all the steps. And thought, I remember being so disappointed because I thought,
Okay.
oh, I thought this was real,
Oh,
like a
wow. Wow.
psychological, psychiatric,
Right.
medical thing, but
Interesting.
it's a God thing. And I was so
Huh.
disappointed because I never thought, if I was really pressed, I never thought any of the God stuff was real. They like,
Right.
I'd existed my whole life without God. Mind you, by 25, 26, my life was horrible. I was like a shell of a human. So it's not like
I
sort of,
was,
man,
yeah.
oh God, my life's awesome. But I just never thought it was real. And so, but that's where I was coming from, just thinking, oh, it's like a church thing. And it was like,
So
no,
so so you're a real guy with real experience in what you're like looking to help others move forward in as well,
yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure, for sure. Like the
Hmm.
principles, as I'm going through the material, it's like any addiction or any so many of our things is like self-centeredness gone insane, and
Okay.
Christians are not immune from self-centeredness or selfishness or sin,
True.
obviously. So
Right.
there's a we're all narcissistic to certain degrees, sometimes in dangerous levels where all of a sudden you're getting into addictive things, and any kind of addictive behavior has a whole laundry list of horrible baggage. If
Hmm.
you're doing to feeding your addiction, you've got to start hiding things, and when you're hiding things, then you're lying, and then you're lying about lying, and then you're lying about lying about lying,
Mm,
and then you're creating a second light, like all this horrible stuff, as well as depending on what kind of substance maybe you're doing, then you're harming your body, your mind, your
right.
body, your teeth are falling out, whatever. And so yeah, yeah.
Can you smile for me?
See,
Yeah,
good.
most of your
I'm good.
teeth are
I've
there.
been brushing my teeth for 30 years now. It's great.
What?
Yeah, yeah,
How old are you?
yeah. That's I'm 55. That's so sad. Yeah, I was uh,
Okay, good.
I was hit and miss before that, but yeah,
But you've
yeah.
been
It's
faithful for your team. No, that's awesome.
yeah, and
Thank you for doing
what you
that. Yeah.
mentioned there too. I brought that up in the meeting last night because I my experience, although it was years ago, was only really AA, and people that
Mhm.
couldn't sort of handle the higher power thing would usually. So I'm not into this higher power thing, and that AA wasn't even for them. So with this thing being very overtly Christian, I said, so yeah, like what if someone comes in and they really genuinely are seeking help, but they're like, I can't get past this Jesus stuff. It's like, well, yeah, it's going to be a case by
Can
case thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can they take it and just kind of ignore the spiritual aspect, or the spiritual aspect? I would imagine is a huge part of the healing
Well,
for their life, right?
I guess supernaturally for sure. Like like the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit does things to people,
Mm-hmm.
but also it seems like we're also able to resist God. Yeah, it's complicated. We get into some heavy theology there, but
Right.
like you have
That's
people
interesting.
people that say I've been running away from God my whole life. People like the Jonah thing. Like
Right.
God says, "Hey, I have a thing for you. Do this stuff." You're like, be right back, and then you're gone. Like no, I don't want anything to do with God, and you're running from
Right.
God. Some people have that sense, and other
Yeah.
people, many people are multiple generations away from any kind of organized faith, and so they don't even
Mm.
have a vocabulary. But like uh, are you saved? Do you know this? Do you know the Lord? Do you, yeah,
Right. Right.
like
Right.
all that language is like, what is that? And it's the
Mm-hmm.
world is those of us that are regular church attenders, regularly opening up our Bible, regularly kind of wrestling with this stuff. We're a minority, big time,
Mm-hmm.
big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I
Wow.
you know
Wow.
sadly I'm okay with. I
Mm-hmm.
want everyone to explore the Lord and come to faith, but I just know that's not going to happen. How many people watch Jesus do miracles in their own presence and go like, I'm not for this. It's not for me.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
everyone was converted.
Right. No.
Even the
No.
disciples doing miracles, people are like, I'm not into this,
Right.
and walk
Right.
away.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like the Bible says, God wants that no one should perish, but people do, right?
Yeah,
And that's I think that's what free will is about. We have a choice to um, be so full of ourselves and not want that surrender or the humility to um, accept that there is a God and there is a higher power, and find out who that is. And a lot of people go on their lives thinking, no, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then their life keeps on going down and down. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's no, and it I think becomes empty and empty at best. At best, like it can become full of turmoil and tragedy.
for
The
sure.
more and more we walk away. Yeah.
Because I guess that's like the downfall of humanism. Like if the human intellect and human ingenuity and human mind is the highest that a human can ever get to, then that's pretty limited.
Yeah.
But to tap into the mind of God, the creator of the universe, the first, the uncaused cause, the every God is everything.
Right.
It's almost limitless. Your whole life you should be, on paper getting better all the time, because you're
Yeah.
never going to attain the ultimate. But
Yeah.
it's like presenting uh, clear faith, presenting Christianity to non-Christians. Like I witnessed you on film. I was in the next room watching on a camera, but
Right.
you led a funeral the other day with,
Hmm.
I would think, probably safe to say, most of the people there, about what, 30, 35 people, most of
Yes.
them would not be like, yeah, oh, for sure, yeah, Jesus is Lord. Yeah,
Oh,
they
definitely
were not
not. Yep.
church people, but
Nope.
you were able to present using language that people could totally get their mind around, using their own language,
Yep.
using that amazing little tiny piece of Ecclesiastes. There's a time to time for war, time for peace,
Hmm.
all those kind of things. And it was a great tap into it with an amazing follow up prayer that tied it together. And I'm sure there's people going, okay, maybe there is some relevance to this God stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, with that funeral, I felt it went really well, and I don't. So James and I both officiate funerals as well, and it's just part of our job. Not all funeral directors do, but we so happen to be comfortable with it, and we do it. And so, yeah, it was not a churchy room at all.
No,
I had a sense that there might have been a couple of uncles there who might have had, Roman Catholic background or something like that, but everyone else was, yeah, not that interested. But the things people don't realize that the Bible is like, there's so much reality. There's real life. It is real life, and you can draw things from it that apply so well, and people go like, whoa, that's amazing, whatever you just read. And it's like, well, that's the Bible. Oh, never mind.
yeah, I
uh,
know.
eh,
Oh, it's the Bible, so it's fake.
yeah, but no, this is a book that is bestseller for thousands of years,
Yeah,
like top bestseller for thousands of years. and
right,
and there's reason why. I mean,
right.
it's a living word. But I want let's actually two things.
Yeah,
For those we always say this at the end, but if you haven't, go ahead and like and subscribe.
yes, yes.
Shout out to my buddy Dan who liked and subscribed, not me.
Push the
uh,
buttons. Yeah,
yeah, my buddy Dan liked and subscribed the other day, and it was he loves the podcast, so shout out to Dan.
yeah, yeah.
And uh, the other thing I was wondering, going back to because this is a great theme, I think, for today. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Like, um, you weren't churched as a kid.
No, no.
What was it like?
Just my life was like most people that I was growing up with and around. The only people I knew that went to church were like old ladies,
Okay.
and then my best friend Spiro Papadatos that was very Greek, and they went to Greek church, and he went to Greek school. So I figured it's for old ladies and Greeks. So I always loved Spiro and always liked old ladies, I guess. It was never kind of like, oh, church is terrible. It was just totally irrelevant. It wasn't part of our life.
Okay.
We weren't a family of criminals or anything like that, but we weren't morally, amazing living people either in my family.
Right.
Multiple divorces and on and on and on, like very secular living. And
Right.
I got one of a story like billions of people in North America or maybe the world.
Hmm.
I'm a surprise baby born to a couple teenagers in the late '60s. So there's no family framework there, and my dad leaves early on. Like, I can't do this. He's gone, and so I've got a teenage mom, single mom. She works in factories. I'm left
Mm.
alone. A classic '70s latchkey kid,
Right.
and all the pitfalls of growing up like that, where you're unattended, unprotected. Creepy uncles, uh,
Hmm.
mean babysitters, older sons, and creepy stuff that happens to little kids that are not protected. Went through all
Well.
that stuff, and
Mm.
all and at the same time, sort of seeing stuff that little kids shouldn't see, porn,
Right.
all kinds of drugs, like massive drinking going on, parties, all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And so by the time, I'm like 14, 13, 14, when a stepbrother at the time says, hey, do you want to get high? It was like, yeah, sure. And
Right.
ironically, we go in the back of this church, these steps on the behind a church, like, oh, it's one of these church buildings, and smoke all these joints. And I'm like, high, thinking, oh, wow. Like, didn't even realize that I ever wanted to push down all the pain and
Oh.
uh,
Mm.
and anxiety of my childhood. And I'm thinking, oh, getting high is amazing. So like if you think getting high is great, talk about getting drunk, and then the drinking and drugs and just no holds barred. As
Hmm.
a young musician, I started playing in bands, and then mix in all that lifestyle of a rock musician and women and drugs and booze, and then don't work a lot, so that hey, wait a minute, you get money other ways that break the laws, and so just the whole life I allowed to kind of permeate me, and
Hmm.
did a bunch of really despicable things. Was not a person you could rely on. Yeah, just it was just I just became exactly what it sounds like I'm sort of describing. Just a real
Right.
deadbeat loser party guy. Thought he was super cool, and at
Hmm.
21, things had really come to a head, and I did some really really scummy moves that upset a lot of people in my
Hmm.
world. And all of a sudden, I thought, well, wait a minute. I'll go to one of these rehab places that you see on TV, and that'll get everyone off my back. And it worked. I went to a rehab place. It was a 21-day rehab thing. I'm 21. My first son was 6 months at the time. Everyone's like, oh, look, James is getting help. That's good. That's good.
Right.
But it was completely false.
Hmm.
As soon as
Wow.
I was off everyone's radar, I was kind of back at it for another 5 years solid, and
Okay.
went deeper and deeper into that world. Needles and all kinds of just horrible stuff, horrible, horrible stuff. And the one thing that,
And what was that? What was that giving you? Just kind of a release from all your demons in a way, but
yeah, but
creating more.
it's
Or
so temporary, so
right.
temporary. It's sort of like like having a like, oh, I got a craving for some sweet candy, so you eat some candy. Oh, I'm gonna eat a ton of candy. Then you got a stomach ache and you got a headache, and
Mm.
then your teeth are rotting out, and then that calms down. Then you eat it all. Then you just go all the way around again. Ooh, the someone turned the lights off here. Oh, there
Okay.
they go. Let's turn it back on. Okay. Like the merry-go-round that people talk about. Like
Right.
what goes up must come down, and
Right.
all of that. So that's it's yeah. There was like a release and a postponing and a suppressing of all the feelings and whatnot. But
Hmm.
drugs wear off. Uh,
Yeah.
People sober up, and that so it's just like this constant running to the point where I couldn't look in the mirror.
Wow.
I couldn't look at people.
Why now? Why couldn't you look in the mirror? If like,
I
what were
just
you comparing yourself
ashamed,
to?
ashamed. Uh,
No, it's interesting. I think that because if you didn't know much different, and getting high was the answer, it shouldn't matter to
well,
look in the mirror or not. But
where I was going at 21. What did happen in those 21 days I went to that rehab? I
right.
heard and I saw a whole bunch of things that were um, that were connected to my future, and literally ruined my partying, because I
Oh
knew
wow.
there was another. I knew I didn't have to. I wasn't trapped in that world. There was a better way to be a better man, and so it literally ruined my partying. So I had to just to go harder to suppress all that stuff that I knew was true. Like, you don't have to drink and drug. You don't have to be a liar and a thief and on and so years later, then
Okay.
I tapped back into AA, and because it was either like die or do something, and I got
Right.
involved with some really hardcore AA people that were kind of like, look, do you want to live or do you want to die? If you want to die, go out, keep going. But if you want help, this is what we're here for. And
Hmm.
there was no kind of like, it's okay, you're gonna be okay. It was really hardcore. It was like,
Hmm.
there's a program, this is how it works. Don't call me drunk. Don't do this, don't do that. And I thought, wow, yeah, I really want to get straight. And so yeah, that was the hardcore thing. And as I mentioned, after a couple years of being completely clean and sober, I realized, yeah, this is totally working, but
Right.
I clearly know it's not because I'm awesome. It's not because suddenly I got this great willpower. It was this higher power thing, but I wanted, like, what is it? What is
Right.
that?
Right.
And then I'm just like reading and reading, and everything, all roads were leading back to Jesus Christ. I'm like,
Hmm.
all of a sudden it was like this moment, like, oh man, this is all real. It was like the
Hmm.
opposite of when I first saw the thing. Like, oh, I thought this was real. And all of a sudden it was like,
Okay.
all that stuff I've ever heard is all true. It was like right
Cool.
out of a movie, you know? And
Hmm.
yeah, and that began my Christian life like about 28 years ago. And yeah, I've never looked back, kind of thing. And
Wow.
yeah,
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, um,
probably an overshare, but that's okay.
yeah, but I think it is important for other people to hear, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're living this life that looks one way right now,
Yeah,
and it's awesome, and we're thankful that God has brought us here, and maybe we seem to have some things together, and doing well. We have a smile on our faces most days. We have joy. We have this sense of peace.
yeah,
It wasn't always like that, and we have had our own struggles too.
right,
But other people, wherever they're at, they can find peace as well,
right.
and they can find freedom, which is awesome.
Which is a great word. That's always been my motivation. Where people with these sobriety anniversary dates, every year it rolls around, I'm thinking, I should say something. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't. And I do. And there's always similar reactions. People saying, I had no idea. Wow, I
Hmm.
don't, I don't, I don't feel like such a loser now, or whatever.
Yeah,
And
because other people have those struggles. They're real, and or their child has that struggle,
yeah,
or
yeah,
someone who does. And I think from your sobriety video that you did, there was several people that said thank you so much for sharing this, and I actually maybe had personal connection with those people that I knew.
right,
There was struggles in their own lives, the circle that they hung out with, that they knew somebody who really would relate to what you were talking about,
sure,
and then it comforted them, because you know what, they see that there's it's not hopeless. Even though it might seem hopeless, it might seem so dark, it is not hopeless.
sure. Yeah, that's right. And it's such a dynamic thing because I know in your career as well as my career, we've buried and cremated many people
Hmm.
that have succumbed and been killed by their addiction. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
whether it was an
drug
accident
overdose.
or overdoses, all that crap. And then we're
Yeah.
not dealing with the family that feels guilty, that feels horrible, and with all these unanswered questions for the rest of their lives. So it's like the
It's sad.
darkest side of all that addiction stuff is it only either people
Mhm.
they repent in the sense that they change direction, or
Right.
it's jails, institutions, or death. Like
Right.
it's not a great selling
Yeah.
point.
When you were saying about how we've dealt with it, I've just been reminded of sadly several fathers that I've had to sit across from,
Yeah,
that are burying their son,
yeah.
and the father's head is always hung so low, and that they're racked with, the guilt
Guilt.
of
Yeah,
maybe thinking they're a bad father. And it's like, well, hold on, you know what, it doesn't sometimes it doesn't matter how good of a dad you are or how bad of a dad you are.
yeah, yeah. That's right.
People,
You said the free will statement earlier. It's yeah.
yeah.
You can do your best and pray and raise your
Hmm.
kids, and then kids get to that age of accountability. Like, no, I want to do this, Dad. And
Hmm.
yeah, just yeah, yeah. That's there's a what's that movie? Beautiful Boy. Beautiful Boy. You've never seen it. It's
Never seen it. No.
who's in it? Steve Carell's in it, but it's not a comedy. Uh,
Okay.
I think it's called
Oh,
Beautiful
okay.
Boy. Anyway, I'm probably messing up
Right.
but it makes that drives that point home. Like kid that was been given all the opportunities to grow and thrive as a human being, and good
Hmm.
family, blah blah blah, gets tied up in drugs and just cannot get off of them. But yeah,
Right. Yeah.
cycling back to celebrate recovery. Sometimes it's not a drug. Sometimes people are hooked up with porn,
Yep.
and
Well, I had that struggle for 10 years,
okay,
and
okay, there you go. Which is not
yep.
a drug,
I
or is it a drug? I guess it is a drug. It affects
it's
us.
it's
It
your
changes our mood.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's actually a drug within your own. You can create your own drug. That's the crazy part about that,
yeah,
is your body creates its own drug.
Right.
So it doesn't actually have to be from outside. It's actually from inside your body, and you get hooked
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
and addicted
Yeah.
to that release.
Right.
And yeah, and it's a different thing because it doesn't look like you're harming yourself, but you actually are, and you're harming your relationships, your interpersonal relationships. You could be harming your marriage. You could be harming your friendships, everything.
Sure.
And it could be so hidden.
Well, and that's tricky too, because we're talking like two Christian guys, but
Right.
someone else could hear that and say, like, what? Like,
Yeah.
porn's everywhere. What are you talking about? There's porn on my cornflakes. What are you talking
Yep.
about? Porn's fine.
Right.
And
Right.
so, but
Yeah.
it's yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other show.
It is, and
What's
we're
your
like
show?
30. We're 30 minutes in already.
Oh man. Okay.
But you know what? I always wanted to know how to beat it. Well, that's that sounds bad. On that note, no, you know what? God set me free, so
Right on.
praise God.
Right on. Right on.
Well, that's a good ending.
Yeah. That is.
Okay. I better stop. That's
So that will not be a little snippet there for. It would be a drink snippet. Yeah. Let's not do that.
yeah. You need to use that in context.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Listen, yeah,
All
you're
right.
right. The time here, we want to be conscious that I got a big board meeting or an annual meeting at the church tonight,
Right.
and then you and I have a really cool meeting tomorrow, which
Yeah, that's super
we're
cool.
going to meet in a bigger city in the area and present our awesome business model.
Yeah, and I'm sure. Actually, I've already given little taste to that to a couple of people in that business, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, what you guys do is amazing. We need to help other people, and by using you, we can help them."
Love it.
So we're gonna go do that, and
Yeah.
yeah, should be good. Drive home safe. You don't have a long drive, but it's good.
You either. Yeah.
And thank you for what you're doing with the celebration of recovery. I think that's amazing, and we need it, especially now in these days and times.
Right.
That is needed more and more and more. Like, it is a pandemic. It's insane, and we need people to realize that there is hope, and that there is light at the end of that dark tunnel, and it's not drugs. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Or a train.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, man.
Hey, man. Well, you have a good night. Say hi to your beautiful family.
Right back at you. Thanks.
All right, we'll see ya.
Yeah. Bye.